Hello, all of my crafty friends. Happy Sunday, and I am here again today with another installment of Our Savior Sunday. I'm going to be bringing in another one of my Maymaymadeit stamp sets this week, and I am going to be using Showers of Blessings for this card. We're actually going to make a card today. We're not going to do the memory decks today. Just because I wanted to use several of the images that were in this stamp set. This was one of probably my favorite stamp sets, I think, from last year from Maymay. And so I'm going to use all the ladies in the stamp set as well as two of the sentiments. I'm going to bring in some of the waffle flower cardstocks, the neutrals, the unicorn, and then I'm going to also bring in the JJ's rainbows, just because as I'm doing this card I wanted to kind of go from that black and white kind of subdued to that very happy color, and you'll see the variation that I'm thinking about. I'm going to be working on a 5x7 card base. I bought out some of my Cricut pattern paper, and these are cut at 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. I'm going to also be bringing in some Tonic Studios shimmer glitter cardstock, and these are 4.5 by 6.5. And then I have a piece of vellum and a piece of cardstock that are 4 by 6. Now I will also be bringing in a piece of Cricut True Brush cardstock later in this. I'll be using some contact paper. This is what I call magic cover. I just get it at the dollar store. It works very well for using vinyl. So we're going to go into design space today, and I decided that I wanted to create an easy background. So I'm just looking up the word tile, and I found this really neat mosaic tile in design space, and I thought that it would create an awesome background for my card. So I'm going to bring that in, and I am going to make me kind of a template that is 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 for me to see the placement of my pieces. So I have taken this mosaic tile and I made it about 2 inches wide. That ended up being like 1.7 inches tall. I wasn't really worried about the height. I was more worried about the width. And I'm just going to make 2 of those, and then I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to go all the way down the page. I'm going to end up doing this 4 times once I do this, and I'm trying to line them up on each other. I have that bottom line overlapping with the top line. It's fine because I won't be using the positive piece. I'm actually going to be using the negative, so it's okay that it's going to cut over itself in the final cut in the machine. So I'm just I increased the size of my screen so that I could see better where I was placing that. And once I get it kind of placed where I want it to be, I am going to then duplicate that 2 more times. And you kind of see me just kind of fiddling with it, getting it where I want it to be so that I can make sure it's kind of laying on top of each other. No real specific placement for this. Like I said, I just want that very bottom line and the very top line to sit on top of each other. The only thing that I am ensuring that is the same is my x-axis starts at the 2.125 placement for each one. That kind of lines it up to the left hand side. So once I get everything placed where I want it to be in design space, I am going to go through and I am going to grab all of the images. The first thing before I do that is I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that background piece because I'm not cutting that part out. I just needed it to create a template. So now I'm going to grab everything and I am going to attach it. I'm not going to weld it because since I have this overlapping, if I use the weld feature, it would have filled in some of our hexagons, and I did not want that to happen. So I just used attach so that it would go to the exact same place that I wanted it to be on the mat. So it's going to cut exactly this way once we get to the make it button. I'm going to click the make it button, going to click continue. Now when I am doing this, because I'm using some of the holographic vinyl, and sometimes I'm pretty lazy and I just use what's on the screen in front of me, I click on vinyl and I changed the default setting to more so that I can get more pressure, and that just gives me a good cut without having to go in and search for my other settings. But they do have a setting specially made for the holographic vinyl. So here we go. I've already taken that top piece away just so that you guys could kind of see the pattern in it, and it cut out perfectly just the way that I wanted it to. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to weed all of this out. Now, like I said, typically we'd be getting rid of the opposite piece. I am getting rid of the positive piece of the vinyl. Now I'm keeping it and putting it on another piece of cardstock because I feel like it could make a cute background for something else later. You see that over off to the right, but I'm not using that today. So once I've got everything weeded out, I'm going to bring in my contact paper, and this is what I typically do. I just fold down one edge of it, I line it up. I usually cut it to be the size of the paper that I want it to be. This just helps me get it lined up on my cardstock better. I'm going to use my bone folder, and I'm going to rub on it really, really well so that I can get everything to pull up easily and I won't have to worry about pressing down too much. Now, sometimes because this is contact paper, it's about the same consistency as your purple tape. It's not too sticky, and I prefer that because I don't want it to tear my paper when I'm trying to get it off. So that sometimes means that pieces don't stick so readily, but I don't typically have a huge problem with it. So this is where I am bringing in that True Brush vinyl, and this is that copper color because I was initially going to put it on top of the glitter cardstock, but it wasn't sticking the way that I wanted it to. So I chose to bring in another color so that I could get it to stick the way that I wanted it to stick. So when I did this, remember I said that it went a little bit further than the cardstock template that I was using in Cricut. The reason that I didn't mind that was because I would prefer to fold this over to make sure everything sticks down well. So that was the reason that it was okay for me that the image that we created was slightly larger than what our card panel was going to be. So we're going to get that on there. I'm going to make sure that everything is pushed down really well, and then I'm going to take my time and I'm going to pull away that contact paper. Now I fold my contact paper over on itself toward the back, and that's how I pull it off. I don't pull upwards. It is completely flat on the paper going the opposite way, and that is the best way that I find to get the adhesive away from the vinyl without tearing your cardstock. So I'm just pushing everything down, making sure everything is adhered just the way that I want it to be adhered. And then I'm going to go ahead and take away the contact paper, and we end up with a really cute background for our card. I thought that this was really cute and it was pretty effortless. And now we have beautiful pattern paper for just using our Cricut and some vinyl. So now I'm going to bring in that vellum. And I'm going to use this vellum, and I'm going to bring out my three ladies, and I'm going to be using some, I'm just using my Gina K ink, and I'm going to place these ladies the way that I want them to be placed, and then I'm going to stamp them down. Now, when you're stamping on vellum, you don't want to push. This may mean that you have to stamp multiple times, but that's okay. You want to get your crisp lines, and if you push down on your stamp positioner, whatever you're using, you start to make your lines fatter and they get a little blurrier. So what I do is I typically just stamp it out. I press very lightly over it. I might rub my fingers across it, and then I come back in and I do it. Usually I stamp my images twice anyways, but when I'm working on vellum, usually I'm doing it for a third time just because I want that image to remain crisp and I don't want to blur the lines. And you know, we're working on vellum, so it's going to take a little bit of extra time for things to dry anyways. So once I get done with this, pressing my fingers over it pretty lightly, I am going to sit it aside and just let it dry by itself. I'm not going to put any heat to it or anything. And so that's what we came up with. So I'm going to let that dry. Now, while that is drying, I'm going to start bringing in some of these pieces of cardstock, and I'm going to choose one of the ladies, and I'm going to stamp it out multiple times because I'm going to do some paper piecing for this. I kind of had this thought in my head, like kind of going from gray, drab, and dreary to walking in sunshine and the rainbows. So that's why I brought out three paper packs. I have the black and white, kind of that subdued look. Then I have these pastel colors, and then I'm going to end with this really bright, fun rainbow pattern with my third lady. So I'm going to stamp her twice, and then the other two ladies, I will stamp them 3 times on whichever paper pack I am using. And the reason that I only stamped her twice was because I could get a variation of colors between the dress, the shoes, and the umbrella just by using these two placements. So that's why I only did this one twice. So we're going to go through, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp my other ladies, and I will show you what we came up with. So I have like this pastel purple, blue, and pink for this lady. I have the black and white for this lady, and then I have the rainbow colors for our other lady. So I'm going to bring out my Tim Holtz snippers, and I am going to show you guys how I do some of my fussy cutting. Now, I will tell you guys, I don't do a lot of fussy cutting because I have my brother scan and cut, but I know a lot of people do fussy cutting, and sometimes they are having questions about what's the best way to do it. So when I do fussy cutting, the first thing that I do is I cut my image down. I want to get as close to the image as I can, so I'm cutting that paper down. Now, I am right hand dominant, so my scissors are in my right hand, and I'm using my left hand to move the paper around. I'm trying to keep my scissors as straight as possible and just allow the paper to move in order to get a really good cut. Now, you're not going to be able to cut as well as a machine would do. What I usually do, and you'll see me in a little while, is take a Memento Tuxedo Black marker, and I go around the edges because that gives us a very finished look once we have fussy cut our image, and it kind of hides some of the imperfections that you may get. So you see me here, I am cutting out just the dress portion. I really like the polka dots on this piece, and so that's why I cut it in that area, because I wanted the raincoat or dress that she was wearing to have the polka dots in this portion of it. So we're going to finish cutting her out. I am going to show you how I cut out the shoes and the umbrella for this one, and then I will go off screen and cut out the remaining pieces. So for the umbrella, I decided to use this piece because there were 3 different tones of gray in it. There was like a dark gray, a light gray, and then an almost white color. And I'm just doing pretty much the exact same thing. And as you can see, I'm cutting away any body parts that this image has, because I will go back in and show you guys a cute little trick that you can use for adding some color to your vellum that I will use to do her skin tone. And it's really quick, really easy, no shading, no anything, but it does provide some skin tone colors. So that will be in just a few moments, but I just wanted you guys to know why I was cutting her apart and not keeping her hands or her legs or her face or anything like that. So I'm going to finish cutting those pieces off, and then we're going to do the shoes. Now, initially, when I did the shoes, I kept them attached because I wasn't sure how it would look when it was on the vellum. I will go back once we start putting everything together and cut these apart, because I did not like the look of it having the white piece in between the 2 shoes. So just disregard that because it won't stay that way. So we're just going to go in now. I will tell you, when you are doing this part of it, when we are doing the shoes or anything that's really small, you want to ensure that you keep kind of what I call a handle, a piece that you can continue to move around. So make sure that you kind of pay attention to where you start and are going to stop your cutting. So I've cut out those pieces. I'm going to go off screen, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut out the remaining pieces. So once I get done with that, you see that we have our 3 ladies, and this is where I'm going to bring in my Memento Tuxedo Black marker. Now this is a water-based marker, so it works really well whether you're doing Copic coloring and things like that, because it won't bleed into your coloring and things like that. So I just use it all around when I need to finish off my fussy cutting. So that is a really great tool to have in your Krafty stash, because it just helps to finish off, especially if you don't have a cutting machine like a Brother Scan and Cut to cut out your stamps for you, and you're like me and you don't want to buy a whole bunch of dies. So that's why I do it that way. So once I get this one done, I'm going through, and I also tell people to make sure you're doing it from the back, which means you have the back of the image facing you so that if your marker slips, it does not slip onto your image. Ask me how I know. I've done it. I've done it. So now we're going to start doing our paper piecing. So I'm going to go in. My lady to the left is going to be the one with the very subdued colors, and this is where I'm trying to see whether I liked that them being left together, the shoes being left together, and I did not. So I went off and I cut them apart, and I'm just using my tweezers to kind of help me place those things there, and I'm just putting little dabs of glue in the areas, and I'm going directly to the vellum. I thought that it was a little bit easier to glue onto the vellum with some of those smaller pieces than to try to glue the actual finicky pieces. So I'm going to go on and I'm going to glue every piece to our images. So as you can see, we start out with our kind of black and white look, and then we're going to slowly transition and move into some beautiful colors. So I really enjoyed using this paper pack for this, and I don't do a lot of paper piecing, but it was actually pretty fun. I don't know why, it almost felt like playing dress up with dolls. I guess it was like nostalgic for me. So we're going to go in and finish doing those, and I'm using my tweezers to just kind of help me get everything lined up exactly the way that I want them to be. So we're going to finish that. You guys let me know, what are you guys thinking about the My Savior Sunday series? I really enjoy doing this part. Like I said, you know, I started this because when I first started crafting, one of the crafters that I followed, who was the actual illustrator and creator of the stamp sets, Maymaymadeit, did a series similar to this, where she took one of her stamp sets and she did something on Sundays that was religious related, but it was also creating cards, and it just was like an amazing thing for me, and I really enjoyed doing it. And so her series has evolved into other things now, but I really always missed that. So that was one of the things that I decided that I wanted to do with my channel when I got serious about YouTube this year. So I really enjoy doing it. I hope you guys are enjoying it. I have been doing the memory decks, but like I said, like this week, I really wanted to make a card. I was just kind of feeling the card making thing, and I wanted to use all of these images. So this was what came to mind. But please let me know what you guys think and how you guys are enjoying it. I really would love to hear your feedback. I wasn't here last weekend because, of course, it was Mother's Day, and I was being pampered by my family, and I enjoyed every single moment of it. And to be completely honest, I just did not do a recording for last weekend because I was not aware, but my family had a wonderful weekend in store for me, and I completely relished in that. So we've got all of our paper piecing done, and I really think that it came out super cute. Like, I was very happy with this. So now I've brought out a couple of Copic markers, and I am just flipping over the vellum, and I'm coloring on the back side, and it's going to give us a very light colored look once we turn it over, but it's just enough to show the different skin tones. So I used an E49, and then I used an E35 for the second lady, but I used the E49 to color in her hair because she and the first lady are the two that have the most hair showing. So I just transitioned the colors. So when I use the E21 for the first lady, I will then go and use the E35 for her hair. So, and as you can see, it just kind of gives you a little skin tone look, just enough to demonstrate that there's some tone in her skin, but nothing elaborate, nothing that takes a lot of time. And so I really enjoyed doing that part. And as I'm looking back at this video, I noticed that I did not color her hands on this very last one, and it shows. But mistakes were made. I cannot go back and change it now. So once I have all of those colored in, I'm going in and I'm just kind of dry fitting that onto my card. And then I'm going to bring out some score tape. This is 1/8 inch score tape, and I'm going to go all the way around the panel. And I'm trying to make sure that I go right to the edge and that I butt it all the way up, because you know, when you're working with vellum, sometimes you can see that adhesive. So I've set that aside, and now I brought in some of my Brutus Monroe mermaid tail embossing powder, and I'm going to do this first sentiment that says, there shall be showers of blessings, this is the promise of love. And I really thought that that was nice, and I was thinking about one of my friends who's kind of going through some things right now, and I really would like to send her a card of encouragement, just to let her know that although you're going through a difficult time right now, these rainstorms, these storms that we have to go through, are just showing you where you are headed. We have to all go through something in order to get to that better place that we want to be. And as we all know, the darkest hour is right before the break of day. So when you're going through a very, very difficult time in life, just take solace in the fact that when you get to the moment where you feel like things just cannot get worse, it is almost to the point of your breakthrough, and you just got to hold on just a little while longer. So that's kind of the message that I want to send to my friend, because I know that things are uncertain now. It's like rocky territory, and things are so up in the air, and we are creatures of wanting to be in control, and we want to know what is going on, and we want to know what our future holds. And reality is, we don't always know. We just have to go on the ride and make the best of every moment that we go through. So I've got that all adhered down, and I love the way that that looks with our vinyl background. I'm going to take some more score tape, and I'm going to adhere this to our glitter stock. And as you can see, I just take off little pieces of my score tape and I fold it toward the outer edge. This helps me to line up the way that I want it to be before I actually have to commit. You know that once you get that score tape down, there is no turning back. So I found that this is a very easy way to kind of get things lined up. Once I get it lined up the way that I want it to be lined up, I can press down on one edge, pull the strips away, and then I get a perfect alignment every time. This works out so well. I don't know where I figured that out from, but I love it. So then I adhered that to my Cricut pattern paper, and I will go in, and now I'm going to do my sentiment for the inside of my card. The inside of the card, I'm going to be using some Salty Ocean Distress Oxide, and it says, showers of blessings we need, mercy drops round us are falling, but for the showers we plead. So yes, we know we have to go through things in order to get where we want to be, and we ask for those things, but sometimes the storm is a lot to deal with. So just remember that sometimes the storms that you have to go through are to get you to the places that you've asked for. So I'm just going to take some of the raindrops that are in the set, and I'm going to create a little bit of a scene on the inside of the card. You guys know I love to decorate the inside of my cards as well. Takes a little bit more time, but I think it shows the care that we put into creating our handmade cards. I'm going to then also mat that just the way that I matted the front of my card, because I like for things to be matchy. And so once I get done with that, I'm bringing in some water droplet rhinestones from Nuvo. They came in so perfectly handy, and I am going to sprinkle them all over the background of this card. Once I get those sprinkled on, I'm going to come in with some additional Nuvo drops and add in some more raindrops on the card. So I'm going to go in and sprinkle these all over. They have a variation of sizes. They have a variation well, not a variation really of color, but kind of. And I love that watercolor that it gives. It just worked perfect. So I brought in the crystal drops in White Blizzard, and then I brought in the clear Nuvo drops, and I want to use that to make additional raindrops on the scene as well as on each of the umbrellas. Once I get done with that, I'm going to bring in my Spectrum pen. because you know that no card is complete without the sparkle. And I'm going to sparkle up everything. Once I get everything sparkled up, we are going to put it all on a top folding card base, and once we get that done, we will be pretty well done with our card for today. I hope you guys are enjoying our Savior Sunday series. I am definitely loving what we are creating here. Please let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, leave me a comment, because I love talking to you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful remainder of the day and a great start to your week. Bye bye.